Praise the Lord. We give God praise and we thank Him for another day, another opportunity to share the words of grace and truth. Each day is a new day that we've not experienced before. It is a day that the Lord has given us to rejoice and to be glad therein. He's given us His grace. He clothed us in our right minds and given us the opportunity to thrive. Today, we're going to be discussing a study that's entitled Set Free Through Truth. Today's study will shine a light on people living a life that opposes the Lord and His Word. There is a manner of life that people are encouraged to live that opposes the Lord and His Word. If you think about what words mean to us as people, words are in effect advice. It's words that we hear through spoken word. Those words hit our ears, and those words become information, and that information becomes knowledge. And it's an opportunity for us to take advantage of that knowledge or not, to see that knowledge as valuable and helpful or not, knowledge that's to be discarded. The key is that there is today a people living life in the earth using knowledge in a manner that opposes the Lord and His Word. Falsehood, lies. See, the opposite of truth is false. So if we are set free by truth, that means we are bound by things that are false, things that are lies, things that are untrue. And you say, well, Pastor, how does this happen? Where does it happen around us? It happens in our laws, in the way laws are written. I recently heard that there was an election that took place in Russia, where the person who is in power, who is the leader over Russia, won an election, and now this person will be in that role for at least another 15 years. I don't know that it was when they do an election that people always had that period of time, but this person had that period of time, 15 years in that role. So you think about different countries and the way that different countries are ran, and how those different countries are ran by laws that have adjustments made to them to deceive people, to control people, laws that are written in a way and carried out in a way to control certain segments of the population. It's not just in other countries, but it's right here in America as well. Lies, falsehoods, written into law. You see it when people talk about citizens' rights. You see it when we talk about smoking and the effects of smoking. You see it when you talk about drinking and the effects of drinking. You see it even when you talk about foods and the effects of foods. Is everything that's called a food actually good for people? The answer is no. Which means that someone has adjusted or made an adjustment, or somehow they have introduced a falsehood under the auspices of food to make people believe that it is good, and when in actuality, the reality, it is not. And if someone partakes in that on a regular basis, that food on a regular basis, they are in effect in bondage. They may not have shackles on, but they are in effect in bondage. The same is true of credit cards, of loans, of health treatment, medicines. I'm going to go back to health treatment for a moment. I'm reminded of there was a period in time where in medicine, where the way that they were experimenting on people about different solutions, and there were, in history records that there were periods of time where man was actually just experimenting on people because they were trialing different things that would solve a problem. That's one of the reasons why there was laws put in place to limit what kind of trials you can do to confirm the viability of a drug, the viability of a solution, especially as it relates to health. So who began to take the blunt of that law, that change? It shifted from humans, what universe of being, health treatments and medicine. It shifted from humans to what universe? When people are trying to introduce new drugs, what do they use in order to test them. They use animals.
Animals.
But why are animals used? Have you ever heard of a dog that's a lawyer, or a mouse that's a lawyer?
They don't need permission from them.
They don't need permission, and that's the point that they're making here. It was humans, but it shifted to animals because the animals are not represented. In the job market, untruths or falsehoods or lies are in the job market. There are many times I've heard people say there are jobs out there. There are a lot of jobs out there. People should be able to get jobs. That statement suggests, and the fact that there exists job doesn't mean that everybody can get the job. Why? Because everybody don't have something that job may be required. That's the part that goes unspoken. And it depends on what you have had access to that determines whether or not you are fit for those jobs. Equal pay for work. There have been falsehoods that people should do equal work, but they don't have to get paid equally for the work that they do. So when people work, do the same work, and they get paid less, it's a form of bondage. Because someone, because of greed, has made a decision and has written it into law or into rules to suggest that it's okay to unfairly treat people that way. Equal access, providing people with equal access. Someone wrote some laws to suggest that it's okay to not provide people with equal access, but to give access to people that you want to give access to. Someone wrote rules, which is knowledge, which is advice for people to live by that, by rules that enable unequal access to things to occur. These are just some areas adjustments have been made and have resulted in many being misled. Adjustments have been made and have resulted in many being tricked, deceived, and for some people's lives even destroyed, living each day in bondage and struggling with matters simply because they did not know the truth or clearly understand when they started. We're going to delve into this a little bit deeper today because it's important to understand it starts with what we are living by. And it also helps underscore why he sent the prophets of old and he sent Jesus Christ so that his people would be set free from lies, set free from falsehoods, so that they would not be deceived. And so the way the Lord was setting his people free, releasing people, was through truth, opening our eyes so that we could see what did not make sense, opening our eyes so we can see the truth of the matter really is, so that our lives would not be destroyed any further. Jesus said the Lord sent him so that people could have a life filled with abundance. That's what he said in St. John 10:10. If people's lives were fine, then there would have been no reason for Jesus to mention that the Lord sent him so their lives could be abundant. So that meant that people's lives weren't abundant. And they weren't abundant is because of this notion of being in bondage. And people are in bondage largely because of greed, ill-gotten gain, someone's desire for profit for a few. So to have that abundant life that Jesus was offering, he came with the message from the Lord. So how then does a person obtain that abundant life, that promise that Jesus gave? What Jesus knew that he needed to do, he needed to set people free. He needs to set them free by opening their eyes or enabling them to learn something that they previously believed to be true, but was in fact not true. Open their eyes to truths that they didn't know that was already there. They didn't know value was already there. Open their eyes so that they might see the value, the additional value that God is providing. Just like with that phone, we talked about that phone. Realizing the additional value that can be provided by adding multiple people, value, and the way that it makes you feel, the freedom that it gives you, eye-opening experience that you have by learning something new that allows you to benefit from almost instantaneously. God opens the eyes of his people in similar ways so that they can be set free through truth and to begin to see their lives in new productive ways. That's what Jesus came to help people begin to do, to see their life that they were living through a new lens so that they can begin to experience it in new productive ways. Seeing a new fuller life without the mental limiting thoughts, problems, or shackles, without the physical limiting thoughts, problems, or shackles, without the spiritual limiting thoughts, problems, and shackles. Because the problems are on all three levels: mental, physical, and spiritual. And what it does, it holds people from progressing. It holds people from being successful. It holds them back. And God doesn't want that for his people. So he sent Jesus so that Jesus, through his words, and think about the words that Jesus was giving as advice. Through his advice, our eyes are open and we are set free, realizing that we don't have to be in shackle or bound by the things that were limiting us before. To ground us in our study, we have 4 Bible spelling words, and I'm going to introduce 2 of them now and introduce 2 of them later. The first 2 that I'm going to introduce is truth and false. Truth is defined by Webster as meaning a transcendent, fundamental, or spiritual reality. It transforms your perspective. It transforms your thinking. Another word that you're used to hearing when you hear the word truth that you can relate to, I'm sure, is the word fact. And that's the second definition for the word truth. And the third and final definition for truth is a statement or idea that is true. It's important that we recognize what the Lord armed the prophets of old with, but then he armed Jesus also with these things. He armed Jesus with statements that were true. He armed Jesus with ideas that were true. And when Jesus spoke those ideas, when Jesus communicated those statements, it came across as advice. He was providing advice to people about the way that they were living. And if they choose to accept that advice, their lives could be changed. They could be set free. But they must choose to accept the ideas that he was sharing with them as true. They must choose to accept the statements that he was making to them as being what? True. Truth is what you could call real facts about something. That no matter how many years go by, it will still be the same. The real facts about something. That's what truth is. And that's what Jesus came to provide. He provided statements, and the prophets of old, they provided statements that were true to the target audience, the children of Israel. And Jesus provided ideas and statements that were true to the target audience, all people of all races. So what he was doing was giving advice. What the prophets were doing was giving advice. And when they gave those statements and those ideas, the people who heard them then had a choice to make. They had a choice to choose to accept that truth or not. But that's the way it played out. The same is true today. When we hear statements that are true, when we hear ideas that are true, we have a choice to make. And when we learn truth, truth becomes liberating. But the same is also true when we talk about things that are false. The opposite happens. It becomes bondage. False is the second Bible spelling word. And false is the opposite of truth, which is the first definition for false is not true. The second definition is one we would certainly focus on. Adjusted or made so as to deceive. This is what we're talking about this morning. We're talking about things in a world, things have been adjusted or made so as to deceive those who you don't want to have what you have, who you don't want to have the power and influence. So to keep everybody from having the power and influence, things are adjusted or made so as to deceive people. Recently, there was conversations about things being adjusted in the post office so as to deceive people about the upcoming election. I'm just trying to help you connect the dots on how these things are playing out around you in your lives. There are many other ways that things have been adjusted through laws so as to deceive. Our third definition for false is intended or tending to mislead, intentionally to mislead you. And the last definition for false, which is one that you're going to hear more about today, and you hear a lot about in today's world, is inconsistent with facts. You've heard a lot being talked about in recent years about people who have an audience to be able to talk to reach a lot of people and to influence the thinking of a lot of people, being inconsistent with facts. And what we are experiencing is the implications of people who have access to a lot of people, who have a voice into a lot of people, being the impact that it can have by being inconsistent with facts. How confusing it can make things for people. How in bondage people can become when people are inconsistent with facts. And they have an audience, they have a platform that touch a lot of people, providing things that are not true, things that are not genuine, responses that are not genuine, comments that are not genuine, and that are not honest. All are falsehoods. But these two things are critical because it is truth that sets us free. But it's these things that are not true, that are false, that binds people, that prevents people from being the best that they can be, that prevents people from excelling, that holds people back, that holds people down. Do you know what enabled slavery? Falsehoods, things that were not true. We'll come back to our next two Bible spelling words. Let's go to our Bible memory verse, which comes out of the book of St. John, the 8th chapter. Starts at the 31st verse. Then said Jesus to those Jews which believed on him, if ye continue in my word, then are ye my disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. This is the advice. These are the actual words that Jesus spoke, but I want you to think about these words as advice. One of the things that a shepherd does effectively for the people that they lead, and there is even a type of leadership today that in business where people are considered servant leaders. And servant leaders are people who lead by serving the people that they empower, by removing obstacles out of the way of the team that they are responsible for, and empowering them to be the best that they can possibly be. They lead as a servant. They lead as a role model, guiding their team, their organization, their business. Here Jesus is offering some advice, and the advice that he's giving to his followers, specifically the Bible said to those Jews which believed on him. He said, if you continue to learn from the word that I share with you, you shall gain knowledge, or gain the real facts about things in your life that you didn't know before. If you continue to learn from the words that I share with you, if you continue to take in and receive the word that I'm sharing with you, the advice that I'm giving you, if you continue to adhere to the way that I'm saying you should do things, if you continue to accept that advice and you live your life according to that advice, you will gain knowledge. You will gain the real facts about life in your life that you didn't know before. And this knowledge is going to make you free. Which means if the knowledge that he's going to give them, if the advice he's going to give them is going to make them free, logic tells you then what? They must be what? If the knowledge that he's going to give them is going to make them free, then he is also telling them that they must be currently what?
Not free.
Not free. They're in bondage. Why are they in bondage? It's because someone has made some adjustments in their life with the knowledge that's around them to deceive them, to make them believe that the life that they're living is the best that things could be. This is the same thing that happened to slaves. someone adjusted the truth to make the slaves believe that this was the best that they could possibly hope for. Someone tried to adjust the truth to make black people believe that they didn't have the capacity to read. Someone tried to make Jewish people believe that Aryan people, that Germans, were superior than they were. Someone tried to adjust the truth to make people believe that the Egyptians were greater and smarter than anybody. Someone tried to adjust the truth to make those who were enslaved believe that they couldn't rise to any other place in life other than what they were being given, bondage. This is bondage beyond the physical shackles. This is mental bondage. This is spiritual bondage. But understand, it is this knowledge that Jesus is saying, I will, if you continue to learn from the word that I'm sharing with you, if you stay with me and you continue to follow my advice, you continue to follow the word that I'm saying, you gain that knowledge that you didn't have before. These are real facts about your life that you did not know before. I'm going back to that being able to, oh, you mean to tell me I can add multiple people? That's knowledge that you gain. He's saying if you continue to do that, you continue to gain knowledge about what I'm saying, my advice that I'm giving unto you, you will be made free. Free from whatever's holding you back from success. So he's telling them that there are things in your life that you're living by that's holding you back from success you need to be freed from.
Oh, praise be to God, from whom all blessings flow. It is our prayer at Clay Family Ministries that your life has been increased with the increase of God through this study. We appreciate and are thankful for your fellowship during this life skills study segment.